If converting website visitors were a dating app, most homepages would be swiped.
They're gonna swipe right.
We'll unpack why visitors vanish after they click.
The safest button to click is the back button.
Houston, we have a problem.
People do get scared clicking buttons.
This is adsytalks.
The real podcast, and I'm sorry for the previous confusion.
No, that's all right.
But I hope that this time for us was beneficial to prepare for the podcast, and everything should be fine and smooth. Okay, so before we start, I just want to make sure that everything is correct. I know that story with your name, and actually it clicks with me as well, because my second name is Fedosenko, and my entire life, teachers, my co-workers, they always pronounce it like Fedosenko, which is incorrect. It's correct Fedosenko. So that is why I understand your pain with your name, and I respect their correct pronunciation. So just to be on the same page, your name is Inyene. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Cool. Nice. Okay. So today, I hope that we will have a very fruitful conversation. We will talk about the topic that you are best at, and I really hope that we will be able to provide some interesting insights for our listeners and for our people that watch our podcast about the traffic and all the peculiarities. Okay, so right now I will start with a short intro, and then I will give you a word, okay?
All right, that's fine.
Okay, rankings alone aren't enough. What matters is what people see after they click. Welcome to ADsytalks, the podcast where we connect visibility to real business outcomes. I'm Anthony, Head of Customer Experience at Adsy, and today I'm joined by Inyene Udom, a website conversion strategist who is actually preparing to take a stage at Brighting SEO, so stay tuned this April. Inyene, your upcoming talk is titled Why Visitors Vanish and How to Win Them Back. Today, we're giving our listeners an exclusive backstage pass to the ideas behind the talk before the conference, and it should be very interesting for them to understand it. We'll unpack why visitors vanish after they click, where they lose trust, where the journey breaks, and how to win them back and turn that attention into leads. So, traffic is like guests that arrive to the party. If they don't know where to go, they leave hungry. That's exactly what happens with SEO that doesn't convert. So, let's answer it with the big question. Traffic is up. Why aren't leads moving? So, the first question to you, Inyene, would be the following. The clients often say, we have traffic, why aren't we getting more leads? When that happens, what are the first three things you check in this situation?
That's a very interesting question because it happens very often that traffic is up, visibility is going up, and the SEO is working, which is very, very essential. And then there is no sales. When that happens, the first three things I would check is relax. You got the traffic. It means that your SEO is working. So one puzzle is being solved. SEO is on point. So the next thing we want to look at is where the engagements happen on the website. Because one thing we do as an SEO expert is to optimize the website for traffic and make sure the traffic is flowing. But what a part of the puzzle that we are yet to work more on is what do people actually do when they get to the website? It's not what we want them to do. It's not what the cell phone said they should do. What do they actually do on the website? And that's the starting point. When you have clarity around what do people actually do on your website and what they are not doing as well, that gives you what next look like. So instead of worrying about why they are not converting, I would like you to kind of focus on what did they not do when they was on the website. And that will give you an idea on where to focus on and what needs optimizing.
That's actually really clever. And today we'll be going around this topic a lot and digging in. And I want to also clarify how do you, speaking about the traffic, how do you separate wrong traffic problem from the right traffic but wrong page problem?
Data. Do the maths. The maths does answer the question. So before you can really call a traffic wrong, you need to know what does that look like. So first look at the numbers. The number is coming in, the traffic is high, and then link it up to which page is the traffic coming out from the most. Is that your priority page? So do the math. When you do the math, it helps you know, okay, the traffic is here, the page that is giving us the traffic is here, but what we are selling is there. Do they link up? And if they link up, how are they linking up? That helps you know, okay, we are getting traffic to the wrong destination or not appropriate destination. Or we are getting traffic to the right destination, but we are getting low engagement. And that helps you know, what do they act to, why did they drop or why is it not taking actions? And that helps you identify not only wrong traffic in this context, but also where should the energy go? Now you got the traffic, where should they go? And what action do you want them to take and how? So that helps you kind of segment the traffic into what I will call less important traffic and more important traffic instead of wrong traffic and right traffic.
I see. So it's about the relevance. And speaking about the relevance, how do you think? What are the most common reasons a page loses trust in the first, let's say, 5-10 seconds when the visitor landed on this page?
Lack of clarity. If the page doesn't give people clarity what they want, they're gonna leave. And no matter the amount of times and money you invest in SEO, it doesn't count. They wouldn't see the back end of the budget to kind of feel pity for you. So one of the things that you need to do is to be absolutely clear on why should visitors stay on the page. What's that clarity look like for them? The second point is it safe? Do they feel safe when they land on the page? Do they see things that make them feel like you thought about them before optimizing the page? When they feel safe and they feel clear, it's natural for them to take the right action. But when these two things don't link up on that page, the safest button to click is the back button. And that is another SEO traffic leaving your website.
I see. And also, I want to right now to break one myth with you. People always care about the traffic, they want more traffic, and so on and so forth. And one of the myths that I want to break with you is if we add more traffic, it'll work. But pouring more fuel into the leaking gas tank doesn't get you any further. So
Exactly.
you talk about the engagement audit. In that first pass, what's the first leak you try to confirm and rule out?
Good question. So instead of worrying about putting more traffic to a traffic that doesn't convert, you want to look at the existing traffic and look at the engagement from users' point of view. And what that means when people land on your website, what do they see at the above full section of the website? That's the first thing. So what is there for them? Do they feel like you understand their needs? Do you give context to why they should click the button? What is it in your upper fold that's going to make people stay? And you know, the decision they're going to make when they land on the website is going to be two decisions. One, click a button, scroll down the page, or click the back button. And the beautiful part of page engagement is because you are in control of what they do. Because you know their needs, you understand that, and you want them to take the action immediately they land on the web page. So you use the upper fold section to communicate that in a way that make them feel safe, clear, and have clear context of what they should do next.
Thank you very much. And speaking about what they should do next, I want to talk about the user behavior and actually in SEO. On your site, you talk about what happens after the click. So it's like turning visits into leads, into calls. So actually in what you want them to do. Based on that, how would you define user behavior in SEO in simple terms, like for someone who thinks just in rankings, links, contents, and so on and so forth? How do you explain this?
The first thing is to recognize that we are not saying here that ranking is not good. We are not saying here traffic is not essential. That's not the communication. The communication here is that you have done the work, the hardest part of the work, which is the traffic. So you're doing a good job for getting the traffic to the website in the first place. you are also doing a good job for ranking that page. Optimizing it, the technical side of SEO, is hard work. Now you have done the hardest part of the work. What we are talking about SEO behavioral side of human, it has to do with the decision point of the user experience. So what that means is that people have landed on the website, they click the button somewhere in the World Wide Web, and they get to your website. Where did they drop off? And how you understand the behavior is having measurement in place. Things that allow you to measure, did people stop at the upper full and then left the page? Did they scroll to the middle? Did they go to the bottom? Where did the engagement stop and where did the drop off happen? So understanding that aspect of users' experience helps you to understand what your users want from you and be able to optimize that for that audience. So ranking is important. Traffic is good. Links are building are fantastic. But engagement, what do people actually do? And how you know that is to measure what they do on your page.
I see. And like speaking about what they do, we are living in a very fast-paced world. Everything changes, and user behavior changes as well. And what changed in the recent time in user behavior that makes classic SEO less reliable as a growth strategy?
The buzzword, the word we don't want people to say repeatedly, and that's AI. So they are come to kind of renovate and show us a new way of finding information. Whether we love it or we hate it, it's here to stay. And it's here to show us how to do things. And how do we know things are changing and we need to be adapting? It's because even search engine, a big brand, knows this. And that's what I mean there is that if you go to Google and type something in, Google give you option that is called AI mood. That allow you to either see what you want as an answer before you scroll down. So they recognize that fast-paced answer is the way forward. So instead of them before now used to give you links. So you typed it into Google years back. What you see is different links. Some are ads paid to show up, some are organic. So you scroll down and then you make the effort to choose what you want. But now you don't even need the scroll. And this is where users' behavior is so important because they want the answer at the tip of the finger. And if you could link that back to your website, where on your website would people take action without a scroll? Is the above full section of your website. So I want you to look at your website, the above full section of your website, as the Google AI mood, where people actually take action before they scroll. And that is where the old school method of optimization, where you want people to scroll down, take a lot of information before taking action, would no longer be part of the growth strategy. The growth strategy now is wherever people stop on your page, engage them right there. And you could see search engine is adapting to that. And we also see that tools like AI tools like charts providing answer are using websites as resources. So they give a snippet of what's going on, you give a prompt to chat, and they give you the answer and the reference a resources page. And when you click on that resources page, it takes you straight to a specific place. So the process where people take now to actually find information is becoming more shorter and shorter and shorter. And you need to catch up with that. If you're not catching up with that, you'll be left behind. And that is where the old school way is not going to work again because AI, whether you like it or not, is here to stay.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I wanted to mention for our listeners, we link the Ian's consulting page and website planning guide in the show notes. So you're welcome to check them after the podcast. And I want to make a short break and play the game with you, True or False. It's one of our favorite games. I will be telling the statement, and your side would be to tell is it true or false. Okay?
Right.
We will play this game before we jump into the scroll depths. So just for us to warm up before that. So the first statement is the following. A scroll depth drops at 25% usually means intent mismatch.
False.
And a second statement. A scroll depth drop at 75% can still be a conversion problem, not a content problem.
True.
Mhm. Scroll depth is only useful when paired with click events and device segmentation.
True.
Perfect. Now we can briefly unpack the depths, the scroll depth properly, and what it shows, what it can show, and how to interpret it without guessing. So I will be asking the question based on this true or false game that we played, so we could dive deep and understand the scroll depth better. In your future speak at Brighton SEO this April, you mentioned the topic why visitors vanish and how to win them back. And on your consultant page, you talk about finding the hidden gaps when traffic is there, but results are not. And I want to deconstruct this. When you see people dropping off in the scroll data, what's the first thing you look to figure out what's going on?
Good question. And that is the point that I think most people often miss, is that we worry about the percentage of drop off and not actually getting the understanding of why it happened. So the first thing I look at is, where did the engagement stop? Because drop off don't happen without engagement stopping. So engagement first stop, and there's a bit of a processing happening that, like, people's thinking and feelings, and then they drop off. So instead of worrying so much about, is it 25%? Is it 75%? Is it 100%? I want you to focus on engagement. Where did they stop engaging with you? And that is the place to start with. Because when you could identify that, you will definitely be able to work out a strategy on how to increase or decrease the drop off, whatever that objective look like for you. And that's why the first question I was like, if people drop out 25%, is that bad or good? Well, where did they stop the engagement? Did they stop engagement at 25% before they drop off? Or did the engagement stop at 10% before they drop off? So what was happening if the engagement stopped at 10%? What was happening in the rest 15%? What were they doing there? And what's happening in that section of the page that didn't flow through to this other section? So first make sure where engagement stopped before you are worried about the drop-off percentage.
And when you find that drop-off point, what do you look at next to explain this drop-off? Is it the wording, the design or layout, or the page loading speed?
Good question. Those things will be the second phase of the work. So instead of looking at the words or looking at the design or looking at the speed, at first audit that section. That's the first thing. You can only fix what you know. So when you audit that section, you want to ask yourself, what is the missing gap? The missing gap could be multiple things. It could be message. It could be design. It could be call to action. It could be page speed. It could be mobile responsiveness. So the first thing is identify what is not working before the fixing. So the diagnosis have to happen first, and the understanding of that have to happen first before we now say, okay, let's fix the word. Because naturally, when you put a website into SEO tools and you want to get information, you first like, okay, we need to tweak the word. That's like instant reaction. Let's twist the word. Oh, the next one is let's change the layout. Let's change the design. And the next thing, okay, let's optimize the speed. Maybe the website is not fast enough. But take a step back and identify, what are we auditing here? Engagement is the first thing. And why this is important is because it just reduces the amount of time and effort we are going to spend on that page. Because once we identify where the engagement stops, fixing it becomes much easier.
I see. And also, one important thing that I want to ask you is that I know from my own experience that every page usually has call to action button or call to action at some point. And how do you decide when the call to action should sit on the page and where?
Good question. Because we are talking about website that converts here. So before we decide where call to action to sit, we need to decide what we are converting. Are we converting more people to sign up to our newsletter? Are we converting more people to read our blog posts? What is our conversion? So bring conversion early on in the process. When you have that clarity of what exactly we're going to convert here, Where call to action sits, it's becoming more clearer before we actually decide what the call to action should look like. Because if you want people to read a bit more information about, let's take, for example, your blog, you want people to kind of get the overview of the page or whatever content the article is going to give them before they take action. You want them to digest the information before they take action. That decide where the call to action should sit. If you're already warming people up in wherever you put the placement or wherever they see the links, they're coming in for action. So you know where the call to action is going to be. So before we decide which calls to actions you use and where it should sit, we want to bring conversion early on in the process. What are we converting and why? And that determines where call to action sits.
I see. And how do you usually tell when the call to action is placed too early or too late? So the visitors leave before they start or they are not ready for it yet. So how do you tell that?
So the first thing is to check how did they make decisions. So when people land on the website, they are doing two things. Is it that they scroll, click a link, or click the back button? So how I decide whether it's too early, did they land on the page and leave? Or did they land on the page and scroll down? That's a lot of context. That gives you a lot to understand what's happening. And call to action that is too early is the one that is generic, doesn't give context, it doesn't give clarity of what happened next when people click on it. You didn't just give them a link to click, but you haven't given them why they should do that and what will happen. And another thing is that people do get scared clicking buttons. So you giving them context is a bit of reassurance that don't worry, we got you. You understand what you're feeling. We know why you are here and we are here to help you. Well, once you reassure them that way with giving context and clarity, clicking the button comes very naturally. Then there's another group of experts that will go really extreme with call to action button and put it very late. And what it means is that we just think that they need more. We need to give them more information. We need to give them more, bombard them with more things. And then we put the call to actions. So without context, your call to action is too early. Giving too much context and allowing them to screw before they see the button, you're allowing them to think too much. And when people think too much, they're processing too much. The best way to decide is indecision, and that's not helping you to grow. And you don't want your website visitor to be in that place. So call to action belongs in the upper fold of a page, but before you put it there, give context as to why it exists, what you want people to do, and what exactly is going to happen before they click. Do not wait till you get to the footer of the page before you put the call to action button, because many people may not really have the interest of scrolling down if they don't know what next.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And speaking about the devices, the user behavior on mobile and desktop are pretty different. So how does this change everything that you just mentioned about the call to action on mobile and desktop devices across different traffic sources?
That's why understanding your user's behavior is essential here. So when you understand the demographic that you're targeting, the audience that you're trying to reach with your content or you're trying to reach with your product or services, what you want to do is how do they use the internet? It's simple, but it's also an important part on how you place it. For example, if you are targeting a younger generation, you know that most of their shopping will be on mobile phone or it's going to be on tablet. So you know what type of features or design or optimization will be appealing to them. If your target audience is a more older generations, what you see in users' behavior is that they might use the phone to check things out, but they're going to use a more bigger screen like laptop or desktop to make the buying. So if you are selling and you want them to buy, you know that they're looking things up when they are going for a walk in the park or in the restaurant or something with their phone, but they're actually putting their card and typing on something or signing up to some newsletter, it will be on a bigger screen. So understanding your demographic is so essential because that will help you know how they behave when they use the screen. And that would help you know what to optimize the most and what features would be interesting to them and which features will be distracting to them. Because context here really helps when you want to optimize the page for engagement, for conversion, and also for better user experience. So understanding your demographic and how they engage with web page help with optimization.
Yeah, I do agree on that because it's a very popular stereotype that older generation uses laptop for some serious tasks, and they use mobile just to for some quick check, for notifications, for communication, and so on and so forth. So yeah, there is this meme when older people, when they need to do something serious, they always open their laptop, turn on their computer. So yes, I understand what you mean. And the last question in this segment: how do you actually break down this scroll data? How do you break it down first? By device, by where the traffic came from. So how do you read this data properly?
Good question. Mobile responsiveness is the key. Almost all generations uses them. And when I'm looking at the data, I know that most people is going to use that. So I don't prioritize that. What I prioritize first is whether they use device, mobile phone or not to search for the page. I prioritize where engagement drop. That is the key to determining what device did they use. Because when you know where engagement drop, it helps you know what factors influence that engagement. Was it because they were on their phone? Was it because it was in the afternoon? Was it because it was a lunch break? Was it because they were just scrolling the internet and they got to find your links? It helps you understand the behavior behind the responsiveness. So the first thing is to know the engagement point, and then that would help you know if you're targeting a bit younger audience, then you know that okay, I need to optimize more on the device side, on the mobile responsiveness, on the mobile side of the thing before the other aspects of the page.
I see. Well, that does make sense. Okay, Ian, I want to make a short break and play another game with you. This game actually will help us understand and pick from two statements that I'm going to offer you. This game is called This or That, and I'm going to read you the prompt and offer two variants in the end. You will need to pick one of them and then explain why did you make this choice. Okay?
Yeah, let's do that.
So, the first one is the following: what causes users to stop scrolling more often? Bad content structure or the page performance?
Page performance.
Why is that?
Because distraction is very easily created on the page. It's so easy when the team are together trying to design something. It's very easy to either use the text, which is the message, to confuse or distract the audience. And if that is not in alignment with the performance side of the web page, it is misaligned. And once it's misaligned, it causes a lot of drop off. So performance gives you a lot more than the surface message, because if you focus on the message only, to me, you're looking at one part of the puzzle. The message is part of the bigger picture, the engagement and lead to conversion. So instead of looking at that, we look at the performance of the page, and that performance of the page give us more context into their behavior, the user experience behavior, and that would help us to know what to improve with the message.
I see. Thank you so much. The second one would be the following: if users don't scroll, is it more often wrong intent or a weak first screen?
User intent could be okay. You are gonna pick one or two. Is that what it's saying?
This or that, yes. So is it wrong intent, or if users don't scroll, is it more often wrong intent or weak first screen?
Weak first screen.
Why?
Because users' intent have already brought them to the page. If they did not have the intent, and if the intent didn't match what they were looking for, they wouldn't have clicked the link in the first place. And that's why good SEO is good. It does that. It matches the user intent, brought them to the page. Now, the page that they see on their screen need to match the intention. If it doesn't, that's a gap. And when that gap happens, they're like, am I in the right page? Am I supposed to be here? Did I click a link by mistake? And they're gonna leave. So your action point is you brought people to the page. Give them strong screen impression of what you want them to do and why.
hmm And I want to talk about the gaps that you've mentioned. I want in more detail. We can break down the gaps into four categories: it's clarity, trust, framing, and call to action sequencing. And speaking about the clarity, what's the first thing you check above the fold on the landing page?
So the above fold section of the landing page need to do three things. You need to provide some psychological safety. You need to make people understand that you got them, they feel safe. Because what's going on their mind is, am I in the right page? So psychological safety is very important. They need to feel safe. The second thing they need to do is it for me? You need to be able to answer that question. And the third thing is, what do I do next? So once you provide safety, you provide context and clarity, and you show them what happened next, it becomes a natural flow for the right audience to take the action.
Mm-hmm. I see. And speaking about the trust, what from your experience kills trust fastest on the page?
Lack of clarity and increase in distraction. Let me explain that. When a page is not clear, what usually happens is that it's generic, it's vague, not to the SEO expert, because we put in the work, we things we're doing our very best. But from user's point of view, is it clear? So the clarity I'm talking about here is, are we using the right messaging on the page that would resonate with the audience? Or are we speaking the language that we, the expert, understand? So flipping it to the message being clear, increase the trust. And the second thing is having a call to action that is not generic. If your call to action is generic, people are thinking you want me to learn more, but why? So if you want to use learn more as a call to action, you give context on why they should learn more and what learning more actually means for them and what transformation will look like for them so that they can click the button to say, okay, I want this. So trust breakdown when the messaging is not clear and when the call to action is generic.
Mhm. Well, that actually explains the question that I was about to ask about the unclear offer. And if the offer is fine, what framing change gives the fastest improvement?
It is easier for us when working on offer page to list the features. I've been guilty of that as well. Like, let's get the feature out. People need to know what is inside the package. They need to know what they are buying. Then you list out all the features, and the missing gap is the transformation. They're going to have this bucket of things as part of the things they're going to pay for. But so what? When they got that, what happened? So the service or the offer page needs to not just list the features, it needs to link the features to the transformation they're going to experience afterwards. So take them on a journey to the future. You are here now. When you buy this, what would happen? I know exactly what's going to happen for your future. And that's why I want you to buy this. So instead of just telling them where they are right now, this is the list of the future, why not take them kind of snippet to the future, the transformation, the experience, what would change in their life, what would be the impact when they got that. And it's when you have done that, people like to follow what others have done. So you have given them the transformation, shows them that others have already experiencing it. Adds a bit of credibility in form of testimonial and not just listing what you did and how people experience it, but what it means to them. So transform your list, product services list into transformation and turn the transformation to an experience that people already got. If you do that, your offer page become more stronger, not just a list of bucket things they're going to get.
Yeah, so you basically need to draw them a picture of their bright future where they are satisfied when their needs are fulfilled. And it's not about like how their problem is going to be solved. It's about what happens when their problem is solved and when everything is fine and they do not have this problem anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because that boosts their confidence. Sometimes people feel like I need that offer. But when you paint the picture of what does actually look like when you actually have it, they want that experience. And that is where their confidence boosts up. And that's when they actually feel like, okay, you got me. You understand my feeling at the moment and you're answering my question. You're technically answering their question before they actually ask you. And that is where I have seen the conversion become more increased when we optimize the offer page, not just for feature, but for transformation and also add credibility to it through testimonials.
I see. Thank you very much. And speaking about the user journeys, what's the common example of flow friction in user journeys?
One of them is thinking that people need more information for them to take action. And if you look at the user's experience data, what you will see is that people use website in 3 steps: top, middle, bottom. So what you want to do is to use flowchart. So your flowchart should be able to link the page theme. So from top to bottom, there should be one single goal of that page, and you need to flow down. You remove friction by making each independent section, this section to work independently without looking incomplete. So each section needs to have its own objective. So if somebody stop at the upper fold of the page, what's that for them? Do they have enough information there to make decision? If they screw to the middle, do they have enough information there to make decision? If they are the people that from top to bottom, which is average way how people screw website, you want to make sure that when they reach the bottom, which is the footer of the website, it is optimized, because I see website footer as a final handshake you give to someone before leaving the page. So if you're not optimizing your footer for conversion, you are missing the friction. You are like creating a friction point because they have reached the bottom and they're like, okay, what do I do now? Where do I go? You didn't tell them where to go. And the safest place to go is the constant back button. And they are off. And that is another SEO traffic leaving your web page. So to reduce the friction, each section of the page needs to have its own mini job they are doing and give people enough information to take action.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's actually makes sense. Okay, Ian, right now I want to play a mini game with you and understand how you actually know the popular memes that were circling in the internet during the last year, let's say, or even more. So I will start the meme, and your task would be to finish it either funny or with some advice from your experience. So we will try and see how it goes. Do you know this meme with nothing beats a jet to holiday? Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's try the first one and see how it goes.
Okay.
You know how it starts. Your task would be to either finish it as it is or fill it with the SEO related topic. So it starts like that. Darling, hold my hand. Nothing beats a good.
User experience.
Uh-huh. Yes, that's actually true. The second one. Houston, we have a problem. Traffic is there, but
No sales.
that's nice. And the last one. You had one job, one, and the call to action button.
Need to convert.
Mhm.
Just very. That was the hardest part of it, is thinking about what's the question coming.
Yeah. Well, but actually, like jokes aside, it's actually really true. So, okay, in this case, let's try another one because I liked your answers. If converting website visitors were a dating app, most homepages would be swiped left or right.
They're gonna swipe right because that's where I want them to go.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That was really funny, Ian.
Yeah.
Our next segment of our conversation would be about from place page to page performance. And I want to talk about the following. We already discussed what happens on the page once people arrive: clarity, trust, offer framing, and flow. And now let's connect that to the reality, to Adsy reality. We talk about placements, posts, mentions, authority that can create discovery, but the landing page still has to convert the attention into leads.
Yeah.
So when traffic comes from strong referral, what needs to happen above the fold for the trust to convert into action?
It needs to be able to give them what they want. Okay. I've seen it very often on website. The promise you give on your placement or the strong referral is very different from the reality on the page. And there could be many reasons for that. I've literally audited a website where the masterclass date was not correct from where the placement was. And the actual, because it was a recorded video, they need to sign up to something and then watch it. It wasn't the right one because it's the old one. And they're like, we forgot to change this, fine. If you are promoting that, if you are putting the placement for that, could you make sure that what they actually get is linked to what you promise? And that is where the landing page needs to convert. What you say they will get, give them that. And you'll be surprised how many landing page look so different from what the promise was.
Yes, that's true and a really common pain. And how do you check if the message in the article matches what people see after they click, and where it usually breaks, like where the expectations doesn't match with actual reality?
It's understanding things from behavioral point of view. And that is, what is the behavior you want them to see and act on when they get the article? Are you informing them about something? Are you explaining something? Do you want them to take action on something? So you need to kind of start from the end. Most time when we're working on an article, there's this need to start from what is the first step, what is the title, what is the keyword, what are we writing about, before we now talk about what are they getting out of it. But what you need to do if you are looking at converting visitors into clients, focus on what is the conversion from your article. What do you want them to get first? And give them that end-ons, like put that early on in the process and tell them the actions. So you give them what they want straight away because they don't have the time. I want you to assume that everybody that visits your website doesn't have the time and is very lazy, is not willing to read it, and it's not going to do anything. If you still want that person to click a button, what would you be doing differently? Start your article with that mindset.
Mm-hmm. I see. That actually makes sense, and people often overlook that. Also, I wanted to ask you the following: How would you map the simple system from placement, let's say placement, landing page, micro conversion, lead, so the team could see exactly where the leak happens and what to fix first in that sequence?
So how we map that out is to start with, what are we selling? What is the conversion? Is the conversion sign up to newsletter? Is the conversion booking a call? Is the conversion buying something? When we understand the conversion, it helps us know what to place and where. And then we will use that clarity to map out the landing page. So before placement, landing page, mini conversion series of events that need to happen, and the inquiries, let's bring back that objective early on in the process. So my first process was say, let's map out what that action look like, and then use that action for placement, then landing page, and then mini action, and then inquiry. So that when they get to the mini action, it's only easy for them because the hurdle is already removed. Instead of worrying, okay, I'm clicking this link. What am I going to do next? We already tell you what you're going to do next and why that is important. And now when you click the link, you're having the right intention, else you wouldn't click it. And that's why the traffic that is coming needs to be strong enough to convert. We need to let them know what that conversion look like early on in the process. So I think the conversion needs to come early on before we place it and before the landing page and before the mini action, and then the inquiry become natural.
Okay, and one of the we are moving close to our last segment, and I want to be practical here and also to sum up everything that we talked about today with you. You talk a lot about giving a website clear job and mapping for the buyer journey, and I want to turn that into a quick audit framework. Let's sum up. What's the first checkpoint when traffic is up but leads are flat?
The first checkpoint is, which of the page do we have the most traffic? Because we don't want to reinvent the wheel here. We want to follow up with what is already working. If you're already having traffic, that shows a lot. That shows that 3 groups of people are visiting that page. People that want to buy, people that are just curious on the internet, and people that don't know what we are talking about. So those 3 groups of people are already the why you have the high volume of traffic. So we want to understand, which of the page is this happening? Is it happening on your home page, your blog page, your service page, your about page, or what section is that? When we identify the page, we want to see, does this match our objective? Is our objective is to get more people to sign up to newsletter, for example? Is that matching where we are getting the traffic from? So identify the page that is doing well, identify why the page is doing well, and match it up with your conversion goals, whatever that look like for you, and then optimize it for that. And then the second step in that process would be to audit the engagement of that page. So you now know, okay, it's page A that is doing the most, and it matches our objective, what we want to sell or what will lead generation look like for us. The next thing is, where did they engage the most? That's the sequence of the audit. Why did they not engage after that point? And what is happening in that section? And why this is helpful is because audits will lead to work. And work will lead to conversion. We want to minimize the time we spend in optimizing the page. So instead of going all in with the whole page, now we have done the work. We now discover that, okay, it's a footer that we are not giving people enough handshake. Like the handshake is not warm enough to make people make decisions, and hence they leave the page. So we're going to work on getting our ham a little bit moisturized and creamed, so that so that when people get to the footer of the page, they actually get a very nice and tender, handshake before they leave the page. So in that way, the effort optimization is not spread too wide. It becomes more focused, more targeted, and then we measure that. And then we can tweak things along the way.
Yeah, that was actually really good. And speaking about the trust signal, which of the trust signals you prioritize first and why?
It's making people feel safe on your page. And this is beyond having CSL certificate or the padlock. It's beyond that. It's actually resonating with them through the way you use your messaging and through the way you avoid distraction. Because in the process of making sure your messaging is clear, you could end up distracting the audience and you may end up confusing them. So you want to remove all this friction with your messaging so that the trust is there. And I want you to also look at messaging join the words. Because when we're talking about messaging, we always think about the text, the word. Your design is a message. The button is, everything on your website is communicating with your audience. So look at your message not from text point of view, but holistically from everything that is happening on that section to build trust. Is it clear enough? Does it reassure the people? Does it make them feel safe? If you prioritize how people feel when they land on your website, you will make them to stay. And if they stay and engage, conversion is a byproduct of that.
Yes, that is true, Inyene. Okay, so I want to say thank you very much for this insight. It was amazing. Our conversation was really fruitful, and you have a really nice sense of humor. I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just for our listeners, I want to sum up that traffic without sales is like leaking gas tank. If you pour more fuel in it, it won't get you any further. So to our listeners, if you made this far, your attention span is officially better than 90% of the website visitors on your side. So, and if this podcast were a landing page, Inyene would give us 5-star for scroll depth. So, before you go, subscribe, ultimate trust signal for us. Hit the like if you're now obsessed with fixing hidden gaps, and drop a comment on what's the biggest invisible leak you found on your site. Thanks for turning into Adsytalks. See you in the next episodes where we turn more visibility into real results. Bye.
This is Adsy Talks.